Hello, everyone. It's just Graham Keith here from the Great Wake Up, and we're back after a week of banning. YouTube kindly give us a 7-day ban for one of our last podcasts we put up. But the good news is we're back and we're better than ever. So tonight we've got a man called Davey. And if you're sitting at home and the bills are stacking up, you get a bang at the door, the debt collectors are outside waiting, then fear no more, because today Davey is here. He's the man who just makes the debt go away. Davey is from Peace Officers UK, a unique organisation here in England, and his job is to empower, inspire, and enforce the law or legislation upon the lawmakers themselves, and more so the law breakers, government, and corporations all over the world. Now, Peace Officer Davey is the founder of Peace Officers UK and the director of Peace Officers UK CIC. Peace Officers UK is a non-profit community interest company that helps people deal with debt enforcement agents, and their services are free to use for all of us. So sit back, relax, grab a brew like me, and learn just how Davey does it. And PS, it's not just debt that Davey goes into. He'll go into the system, how it works, and how to get remedy through things such as promissory notes too. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Davey.
Thank you, my friend. Good to be here. So do you want to ask me a question, or shall I just ramble on?
Well, what I like to do, Davey, I don't want to put you in a box. I want you to just flow, tell us everything about what you do, how you assist people in this crazy matrix world that we all live in. And for people really who don't know, that's what I want to get onto, Davey. People who are, the people who sort of ridicule us, and the people who say, "You're mad, mate. You must be on planet Zorb or whatever. You're on a different planet." Well, I feel we've got to get through to those people, Davey. As you said on one of your talks the other night that I was watching, we just had a chat about that before I hit record. But one of your chats the other night, you were talking about this as well, and sort of saying, it's all a mind game and we have to get the numbers up. But in order to get the numbers up, people to see what's going on, to see the fraud, they've got to do a huge thing, which is overlooked by everybody. They've got to literally forget who they believe they are, forget everything they've ever been taught, and forget everything that they've ever believed is true, in order to, as you put it, change the operating system. Yeah.
And that's a good place to start, actually, about changing the operating system, because at the end of the day, what we have inside here is an organic computer. Okay, it works exactly the same as any other computer. It's got digital cameras, the eyes, which translate light into a digital images, sends that up the optic nerve to the brain, and plays that image, or 24 of them per second, actually 23.97, but won't split hairs, 24 frames per second on a big screen in your head. Yeah, so you're living in a virtual reality. So the thing about me is that I like to operate in a way where I try to create, this is my world in my head. Yeah, you are currently in my world, yes, as I'm currently in your world, in your reality, but we have different realities. Okay, yes. So I'm trying to create the world I want to live in. Yeah. We do things for each other just because we should, just because it's the right thing to do, rather than what we've been educated to believe, which is every man for himself and make as much profit as you can. So I'm not interested in charging people money for advice and information that actually is freely available out there. Yeah, it's just that you've got different people, as you say, in different mindsets. Okay, I'm of the mindset where I know there's nothing that they can actually do to me. Right, when it comes to debts, I don't have a mortgage. I live in social housing. So I don't risk charging orders or petitions for bankruptcy from the council for council tax, which they've got a nerve to do, because No, and the thing is, all you have to do to fight cases like that is not go into your sovereign being and I'm a living man and woman and you know where is the victim, where is the crime, all of that sort of stuff, the whole common law sort of area. I know all about that. I spent years learning it.
Yeah.
So it was only when it came to the point that I thought, well, this stuff is not actually working in reality. So what I need to do, I want things that work, okay, that are successful. And I know this corrupt system, this legal system that, you know, depends on us being legal fictions, dead entities, treating us like ghosts, hence why they can summon us to a court, because you can only summon ghosts,
Yeah.
summon spirits.
Same.
And some people might say, oh, but yeah, David, by using that system, though, you're perpetuating that system, right? You're keeping it in place. I disagree. What I'm doing is slowly crumbling that system because that system has been in operation for so long. It's gotten away with so much, you know, it's gotten away with threatening people, threatening to take their property, threatening to clamp their car and steal it from under their nose, threatening to
Became
come.
normal. Yeah.
So,
It's became normal.
yeah, it is. It's just become normal and people are fearful of it. Now, I've dealt with enforcement agents. I couldn't tell you how many times. I've lost count, dozens and dozens of times, not just for myself, but on behalf of other people. Um, but what I very quickly realized years ago is that actually I have all the power. As long as I've got all my ducks in order, for example, I've got a car sitting out on my driveway that's worth less than the statutory minimum
Three fifty.
which is £350. My car's worth at best, you know, if you polished it up and put flowers on top, you know, it might go for a few £100.
Yeah, yeah. Does the
So
job.
I know
Does the job, man.
yeah, I know it's a car they can't touch,
Yeah.
right? And so therefore, I don't have to get into those arguments with them.
Exactly.
They just see the car and think, right, okay, so that is not leverage for us. So there's nothing outside the property that we can take. They're certainly not past me. And my way of dealing with when they come banging on your door, rather than getting into arguments with them about, you know, you being a sovereign being. I keep going to say sovereign citizen, but that's not right because citizen is obviously in the legal.
It's oxymoron, isn't it? Yeah.
It's really, yeah. But you don't need to stand there arguing with them. All you need to do is answer your door, and that's important for the reason being that if you don't, if you hide behind your sofa, pretend you're out, you know, turn the telly off quickly and all that sort of stuff, they'll assume you're out. And so a few hours later, they'll pop back again. What you need to do is to let them know, not interested, not dealing with it, go away, right? But you can simply, just by answering the door, whether it's by a doorbell or, you know, with a speaker on it, through a window, through the letterbox, or actually opening the door, which I prefer, you can just simply, as soon as they start talking, you go, no, thank you, not interested, and shut the door. And what will happen? The letter will come through your door with lots of psychological red banding on it.
Scary writing on,
Black bold lettering, final demand. This will happen.
We're coming to seize your goods. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, I get why people are triggered by that.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to do is teach people not to be triggered by that. Okay. It's a nothingness. It's a trick. Okay, it's a spell to trigger you. That's why the words are known are called spelling, because you cast out the word and hope that it triggers a reaction in the other person. Therefore, you've essentially performed magic. Okay, a bit like if I say to you, "Yellow banana." Now you're picturing a yellow banana in your head. I've influenced you. I've you know, changed your train of thought. I've, you know, just by using spells, words. So these words that they use are designed to trigger your anxiety. Yeah, there'll be some power words that they use, enforcement, right? And councils quite often, what they do is they will say, we have the authority to apply to a court, apply to the magistrate's court for a committal to prison order. And
Yeah.
you think, my God, no, panic. I don't want to go to prison, right? But what they're not telling you is that every single one of us has that authority. Every single one of us has the I could apply to get a committal to prison order against you, but it's not going to be accepted, but I have the authority to apply. So they're not lying in that sense. What they're doing is using trying to get you to misinterpret the what they're saying. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, let's touch upon that, Davey, because the whole thing is a massive story from beginning to end. Because when you're born into this world, you just assume that it's normal when everything's just as is, and life just goes on as is. But if you actually do what we've done, I know you've done it because I'm talking to you, and I've done it because I was blessed to be able to say to you before we recorded that I was blessed to be born disabled. I tell all my guests who don't know me my story because it's really important in terms of the awakening journey that we go on. Like, had I been able to walk, because I was born at 26 weeks, Davey, so I was born with cerebral palsy, quadriplegia, so arms and legs don't work, can't walk, can't run, all that kind of stuff, can't stand. But doesn't mean anything to me because I know I've had it from day one. But why it's a gift to me is that because I weren't able to do stuff in my life like you, like say run and play football, go and play rugby, whatever. I had a life of observation. So I would just literally I'd be the guy sitting on the side, just watching everything. And it gives you a great insight into how the world really works. Because you can see people they're just actors for a role in order to get paid. Yeah. None of these bailiffs truly could, maybe the bosses do, but none of the bailiffs know about the legalese system or the admiralty law system or the wording that they're using, they haven't got a clue about any of it. And it's like we were talking about the house evictions with you and Bannerman and all the lads that you go down with the police officers' uniform on. All these bailiffs, they're just meatheads. Like they're not the normal people, the men and women like us. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that they live in an ego identity, a false avatar identity, which essentially is the birth certificate identity. They're living a fake life, but they're acting from that point. So they're never going to learn it. They're never going to see it.
It's all they've ever known, Graham. That's the problem, right? And in their world, in their reality, what they're doing is perfectly justified. I mean, you see them on these programs called the bailiffs, or
they take it away.
They will take it away. You see it in there where they try and justify their actions, like we all have to pay council tax.
Bills to pay, yeah.
And the more they don't pay, the more other innocent people who do pay have to pay more, and all that sort of nonsense, right? So that's all conditioning. That's all social conditioning, which is learned from a very early age. I mean, we are taught right from our first day at school and throughout our education to identify as a legal fiction. Right. So they have when I was at school, it used to be the morning and the afternoon register that was called out. So that made sure everyone came back from lunch. But what that actually, I mean, obviously to any normal person, right, average Joe, that is just it's a safety issue. They're just trying to make sure they've got all the kids present that they're, responsible for. And maybe there is an element of that. However, the biggest reason for that is to constantly program them to answer to that name, because they're not called their full name at home. Yeah. If they never went to school, right,
you wouldn't even know.
They wouldn't even know they had a surname. Yeah. They wouldn't even know. They just know the name that they were called. And in most cases, it would be a shortened version of their actual name or their nickname. As they're called.
Yeah, it's like your missus don't call you Davey Stewart. I think it's the
and I call her Babe. And
and probably some other things as well, Dave. You know what I mean? She probably calls you a few other things as well.
So we're taught right from the beginning of our education and a skewed version of history, and downright blatant lies. I mean, we were taught about Magna Carta, Magna Carta 1215. Now, Magna Carta 1215 doesn't exist. Magna Carta 1215 was annulled on the 24th of August 1215 by Pope Innocent III because King John claimed that it had been signed under duress. And as we all know, any document signed under duress is available to be annulled. And annulled means undone completely in its entirety, retrospectively, right? So
it's not the term jury nullification, isn't it?
Yeah, but also it wasn't even called Magna Carta in 1215. It was called the Great Charter of Liberties. Magna Carta is just Latin for Great Charter, but there was lots of great charters, such as the Charter of the Forest, because 2/3 of England was forest back there, back in the 13th century. So we're taught this very skewed version. Now, I've always wondered, why didn't they teach us about Magna Carta 1216, because that, even though that started off as the Great Charter of Liberties 1216 under Henry III, or his Regency government, because he was only 9 years old, to try and get the barons, the 25 rebel barons, back on board by agreeing to a Great Charter of Liberties. That was renamed to Magna Carta in 1217, after Louis of France was defeated at the Battle of Lincoln, and was forced to sign the Treaty of Lambeth. Now that was renamed to the Treaty of Kingston eventually, because there was already a Treaty of Lambeth from 1212. So, and they used the Great Charter of Liberties, aka Magna Carta 1216, not 1215, as the fundamental document to create this peace treaty. And so, to save any confusion, because of all these new charters that were being created, they renamed the Great Charter of Liberties 1216 to Magna Carta 1216. And then you had Magna Carta 1225 under Henry III, when he had his own authority, when he was grown up enough. And then you had the Magna Carta 1297, which three elements of that still stand to this day. I think it's clause 1, which is to do with the freedom of the British Church, or the English Church. Not necessarily, well, it now includes the Church of England, but back then the English Church was Catholic. So, the freedom and liberties of the English Church. Clause 9, which gave sovereignty to the City of London, and other boroughs and areas. And then clause 29, which set out the right to a fair trial for the common man, basically the right to be judged by a jury of his peers. That was clause 29. But those are the only three clauses that are still in existence. Magna Carta 1215 technically never existed. So why at school is that the one they focus on and teach us, when it never existed in law? That is, in my opinion, to make you believe that you have these fundamental rights set in stone that can't be changed and haven't been for over 800 years, right? And therefore, making you more compliant, believing, because
fall back on them.
We'll be more compliant if we believe there's things in place that protect us. That's fine. I know they're there, so I don't have to worry about them. Do you know what I mean? So when you're using that and going into a court and saying under Magna Carta, article or clause 60 or 61, whatever it is, the right to travel unmolested, that allows me to drive my car on or operate my private conveyance. I want. Well, no, it doesn't, because first of all, it was annulled. Secondly, even if it did stand, it doesn't give you the right to trespass, and you don't own the roads. Yeah, you're nothing but to them, to the system, you are nothing but a piece of paper, a document, a trust, a birth trust. Okay, uh, operating under admiralty law. Yeah,
Yeah, and
so
on their roads, they call their roads shipping lanes. So it's all about commerce and commercial
well,
admiralty law.
and also you become designated as a ship of the fleet of the Crown Corporation Shipping Company, right? Because that's why you get a citizenship or
Yes.
a scholarship or an apprenticeship. Yeah,
Yeah.
these are all ships of the
Anything with
fleet.
ship on the end. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. So we know um, this language they created. We didn't create it. We were just taught it. Yeah. And we have, I mean, I'm 58 years old. I've spent my entire life learning this language, living in this system. Why would I want to come along now and try and claim a completely different jurisdiction that nobody's going to listen to, or nobody I need to listen to is going to listen to? No judge is going to entertain, because they're taught in their education establishments that oh, by the way, we've told everybody else that
Mm.
Magna Carta 1215 exists. We haven't told them, right?
Yeah.
So keep that quiet. As long as you know, then when they come to you and start trying to, you can actually laugh behind the
Yeah.
sorrow look on your face. You know, you'll
It's the
know.
same as the name, I'm guessing, as well, there, Davey. Like all the judges know that the name is the surety name. We'll get into this next, yeah.
Exactly.
But they all know, don't they? They're all chuckling because they
Of
know
course,
that.
which is why, and you know, it's. I mean, people are making mistakes. So going into court saying, "I do not consent,"
Too
not
late.
understanding legalese, because I do not consent. What you have to understand about a court case is it's known as a hearing for a reason, and that is because legalese is the language of hearing. Okay,
Yeah.
the word you hear. So if I say to you in a court, I do not consent, I can either be saying I don't give my consent, as we know it that sentence to be, but it can be heard by the judge as I, spelled AYE, equals
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Do can be heard as DUE equals O.
Right.
Not can be spelt with a K at the beginning, a silent K, meaning bound by.
Which is
Yeah.
what they
So
do. Yeah.
what you've just said in legalese, in their court system, in their legal system, is yes, I do owe that, and
I consent.
I give my consent. So you have to be careful, right, on how you deal with these things. So you will only get respect in court because you will automatically be treated as an illiterate. Okay, and what they mean by that is legally illiterate. Yeah, you don't know the true meaning of the language you're using. You don't know how it can actually backfire and affect you. So, you know, you are illiterate. You come in, start saying, I'm a sovereign being, I'm a living man. But, well, hang on a minute. You're talking to dead entities in this courtroom. So, how can you be living talking to the dead? It doesn't work
Yeah.
that way. The living can't talk to the dead can't talk to the living. That's
Living.
how they took you with the Seta Act 1666, you know, which declared us all as dead until we proven within 7 years that we are not dead. Who'd you prove it to? Well, you can't. It has to be somebody, even if you went to a registrar, they're a dead entity too. They're a
Yes.
registrar. They've got a title, which is a title deed, which is a legal instrument, right? A legal title. So you're talking to the dead. So by doing so, you are declaring yourself as dead. Now, people make the mistake of going into a courtroom and saying, I am not that legal fiction, I'm a living being. Well done. You've just completely screwed yourself, because what you've just done there is separated yourself from the legal fiction. You
Yes.
can't then claim to be a beneficiary of that trust, right? Because that trust was actually created and managed by the Crown, and they didn't name any living beings as beneficiaries, right?
Only
So,
the debt name.
you need to be careful, because yeah, well, okay, we'll punish the legal fiction. It's just a document, a piece of paper. No, it's not. It's the bank account you use, right, which is your legal fiction's bank account. It's the house you live in, which is your legal fiction's house. Yeah, it's listed either on the land registry or the tenancy agreement, the legal fiction name, not you as a living being. So the mobile phone contract you've got. The mobile phone itself was bought by the legal fiction. So all of these things, when you rely so heavily upon the legal fiction, as we all do, even to just pop over the shop and go shopping, right? My opinion is I need to protect that legal fiction, not abandon it and say it's nothing to do with me. I'm alive, and so you can't touch me. No, but they can touch the things that affect me,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah.
don't disconnect yourself from the legal fiction. I go into court and essentially, in not so many words, I'm saying, yes, I am the legal fiction. Yeah.
Yeah.
The,
And
the
the
most
opposite of what they've
important,
told us, that everyone in the movement normally tells you the opposite of that. And they say, put a separation between yourself, like pull out the birth certificate in the courtroom, etc., etc. But let's just go back first, David, to explain what
yeah,
this is. People might not even know what we're talking about. So basically, David, what we're talking about is when we're born, right? You could probably articulate this a bit better than me. But when we're born, our mum and dad obviously are none the wiser. They're tricked as well. And
yeah,
us as a baby is then taken by the delivery nurse. Uh, we're patted on the back and woken up and crying. Everyone's celebrating, newborn baby, everyone's happy. Then they say, oh, well, you're going to need to register this baby now, blah, blah, blah. So mum and dad, or I think it's mum who informs on the birth certificate, she will then sign to register this baby, and then the baby will have essentially a legal entity or legal name created for that baby, whom then over the course of its life is trained to believe that that baby is that name, but essentially it's not. It's just a
yeah,
bank account, as you said, as part of a trust. And the trust, I mean, they call it an Illuminati type. It's not. For me, it's the creditor, the debtor, and the administrator of the trust. And that's the whole game, really.
yeah.
That's the whole world is based on that. Um,
The
so
power of three.
yeah, no, so essentially, as the baby, you're then born into this trust. You're repeatedly told you're this name, but you're going to tell us, Davey, that we're not this name. So what the hell is this name? Why is it in our life? What could we do with it? Can it hurt us? Is it good for us? All of that.
Yeah. So, right. So, of course, how they done all this was the SETA KB Act of 1666, which was actually an amendment of the SETA KB Act of, I think it was 1557 under Henry VIII. Um, and it followed the Great Fire of London a few weeks after the Great Fire of London. Now, if you believe that the Great Fire of London um, was actually started by a hot coal falling out of a baker's oven in Pudding Lane, yeah, and
No, I
catching.
don't believe that.
No, of course not. The real reason for burning London was because it was a very old place that was the churches were largely built out of wood. Now, the thing about the churches is that's where all the birth, death, and marriage records were kept. So as soon as they burnt those, right, that meant that all of a sudden we don't know who's alive and who's dead. Yeah. And,
Yeah.
they've got property and whatever. And so they said, I'll tell you what we'll do just to protect those people's assets and their estates is we'll create we'll amend the old SETA KV Act, right? Create the SETA KV Act of 1666, and in it we'll say everybody's dead until they come forward within 7 years. They are. It didn't actually say the word dead. It uses beyond the seas,
Yeah.
right? So essentially what happens is when you're born, yeah, um, you're born through a birth canal, right?
Yes.
And a
Yes.
canal is a maritime term. Yeah, you're gestated in fluid, water, essentially, and other minerals and vitamins and whatever, but essentially water, right? Well, maritime admiralty law covers every single body of water on the planet. And so they've incorporated it fraudulently, of course, to include the water that's inside you, right? So you're gestated in fluid. You are then born through the birth canal, yeah, and you're nothing more to them than you're a live birth to them,
Yes.
right? And as soon as they've got clarification of that it's a live birth, That means they can then create a trust in the name of that live birth, because miraculously what's about to happen is they're going to lose that, lost at sea. Oops, we dropped it and it fell into the ocean. You know,
Yeah.
after 7 years, we're going to declare it as beyond the seas, which is why when you die in real life, right, when we finally leave this mortal coil, whatever it might be, flat plane or a ball, I don't care. But when we finally leave it, we are deemed to be deceased, right?
Right.
On
Yeah.
record, deceased. Well, the prefix of D, as in DE, is an Old English prefix meaning from. So you are dead from ceased. That means at some point you must have ceased, right? And
Right.
that was after you were registered. Suddenly, oops, we've lost the living baby. It now only exists on paper. The estate of exists on paper. Now,
Very clever.
yeah, it is very clever, and you know they've been at it a long time. They've figured out how to cover all the angles, and now you've got nobody to complain to because they own it all,
That's
right?
it.
All the property, all the land, they own everything. So, you know, it's like getting them to investigate themselves. There's no good going to the courts and complaining about the crown. They are a representation of the crown. You know,
Yeah.
they work for the crown. So,
Never going to happen. Yeah. The only
that
redress is the law, isn't it? The only true
exactly.
redress is the law. Yeah.
We live in this pyramid system, right, where they are at the top in the capstone and we are the bottom layer. So I realized a long time ago that, well, hang on a minute, this entire pyramid rests upon my shoulders and your shoulders and everybody else's shoulders, 99% shoulders.
Exactly.
How about if we jiggle our shoulders about a bit and make it a little bit rocky up there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Money funneling up to the capstone. How about if we use this instrument to settle our debts instead of the sweat of our brow, right?
Yeah.
How about if we, instead of making the crown more money, make them work for it and then lose it? Yeah, such as, you know, speeding offence, for example, right? Which I get lots of people inquiring with me about. If you don't receive the notice of intended prosecution within 14 days of the alleged offence, then you are not obliged under Section 172 of the Road Traffic Act 1988 to provide driver details. Okay,
Right.
the time is up as per Section 1 of the Road Traffic Offenders Act 1988, which states, I think it's paragraph C, states that they have 14 days from the date of the alleged offence, right? So, of course, if you receive it, however you want to interpret that, and you look on the letter and it says, oh, you can view the images of the vehicle that was snapshots taken by logging into this portal, use this password. As soon as you do that, you've proven that it's been served. Yeah,
You've sort of consented and contracted. Yeah.
Well, you've proven that it's been issued and served, i.e., posted first class at least, right?
Right.
Now, if you was to say to them, but I didn't receive it, I haven't received anything, yeah, in that 2 weeks.
Yeah.
They have got no method to prove, they have no receipt to prove that it was definitely posted. They've got information
Right.
on systems that proves when it was issued, right? Maybe even when it went through the franking machine.
But
But
not when
that's
it was
not
actually posted. Yeah.
what was handed to the postman.
Yeah.
Right? There's no receipt for it. So
Yeah,
they
because
can't.
they're not sending you recorded delivery, are they? They're just posting it
And
willy-nilly.
it will cost them the amount they send out, it will cost them millions
Millions.
and billions. Yeah. So, you know, they save that money because they know that most people will either not respond and therefore get a Section 172 offence against them, which is 6 points on the licence and up to £1,000, usually average about £600, but it could be about £1,000. And they will also do you for the speeding offence as well, which is 3 points and a few hundred fine, plus the fees involved as well, plus the victim surcharge. And people say to me, but there is no victim. And it's like, no, it's a statutory pot that everybody who's found guilty has to pay into, whether there's a victim or not, and it's just compensate victims of crime.
Mm.
So, but if you was to go to court, excuse me, and say to them, well, I didn't receive a notice of intended prosecution within 14 days as per Section 1 of the Road Traffic Offenders Act 1988. Can you prove that it was posted? They'll say, well, we've got it on our laptop here. This would be the prosecutor. We've got it on our laptop here that it was issued this date, posted that date. Okay, so that's hearsay. You're a third party interloper in this situation. That's nothing more than hearsay unless you can produce a receipt that proves beyond a reasonable doubt that my letter wasn't chewed up in the franking machine, ended up on the floor under a desk,
And the dog ate it. Yeah.
or wasn't even issued in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I need some proof that it was issued. Now, what you find is generally these cases get dropped before they go to court. They get dismissed, or discontinued, they call it. And it's normally a few days before. And so, as I say, it's about using the system against them. The burden of proof, that's a backdoor, a loophole to their, a problem to them, right? A flaw in their system, which is from issuing it to posting it, we've got no proof.
Yeah, exactly.
We've got no proof. Well, that's hopefully people won't spot that. Yeah, hopefully people won't notice that. And so millions and millions and millions will just keep, either responding or not responding, getting the points and paying the fine, and the Crown makes a fortune, and the Crown gets stronger and stronger, right?
Yeah, that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Exactly. So my attitude is, well, let's break that system up. Let's break up that bottom layer. We are the foundation level of that pyramid system. Let's smash that up. Yeah, a bit anarchy, if you like. I am somewhat of an anarchist, not a mad anarchist, but I believe the system's so corrupt, it's got to be collapsed and rebuilt, right from the start, right from the ashes.
I agree.
So, but until there's some kind of, national or even global revolution that happens, that takes out, the Crown and this whole power system, we have to put up with that system. We're indoctrinated in it. We can't get out of it. We can't stop using the language they provided for us, which is all legal language.
Crazy, isn't it? When you actually sit and think about it, this whole world was designed for them, and they like you said at the start about the operating system. That's really all we need to do. Me and you could do it now. We could create a society right now, register it on Company's House as a new society, and invite all the men and women that we know to come and join our shit. Yeah, we could. That's all they've done. But because there's no competition, it's a monopoly, which is why the game of Monopoly exists.
And they've got, well, I equate it to a game of chess, and I equate common law, people who apply common law in the courts and whatever. First of all, you'll find they're confusing common law and natural law, which are two completely different things. Common law just means laws that are written for the common man, right?
Yeah.
And the trouble is with that is they're written by uncommon men.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So don't be relying on common law and ancient, legislations from like the 13th and 14th century. Instead, look at what you've got. Look at what you've been presented with, right? The loopholes. Read between the lines with a lot of things. It's all about the interpretation. As I say, a court hearing is called a hearing, right? So present your defense or offense if you're a claimant against somebody. Present it with that in mind, right? Don't, instead of going in there and saying, I am not that legal fiction, ha 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 ha, because all they'll do is find in favor of the claimant against the legal fiction.
Yes.
They'll happily say, okay, well, you can go then. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are now going to assume that that name didn't appear
Yeah.
in court, and offered no defence, therefore accepted the claim against them. Therefore, we order
Well,
plus fees, all of that sort of stuff. And as I say, you could kind of go try and duck that by saying, yeah, but it's not me, is it? It's like, no, but it is kind of what you rely upon. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
buy your shopping in order to use your debit card to buy online, your Amazon account, your Netflix account, your house, your mobile phone contract, and literally everything, your car, and that's another thing about the car. You'll get people who are sort of promoting common law saying it's a private conveyance. It's not. I'm not a driver because that is somebody acting in commerce. Well, you do act in commerce. First of all, you purchase the vehicle. That's commerce. You fill it up by making purchases. Yeah, that's commerce. So you do operate that vehicle in commerce, and therefore
You don't have
they
a choice.
exactly. You don't have a choice. So rather than arguing that point, figure out the loopholes to that, right? Like the most important thing that they have to do is follow uh, either whether it's usually most cases it's civil procedure rules because it'll be companies coming after you, claimants coming after you, etc. For debts, council tax, whatever it might be. But you've got the criminal procedure rules and you've got the civil procedure rules, and they are the rules of the game, right? The legal system game, the judiciary, right? They are the rules of the game, just like the rules of chess. You can't go in there and start trying to demand you play backgammon, right? Because
Right.
it's a
Right.
jurisdiction. You're going in there saying, "But I want to play backgammon. I have a right to play backgammon." Just like going in there saying, "I want to use common law. I have a right to use." Do you know what I mean? They'll say, "No, this is a chess club. Yeah, this
Yeah.
is a
Yeah.
chess."
We're playing Monopoly, not Connect Four, basically. We're playing
Exactly.
our game. Yeah.
Exactly. So all you have to do to win a game of chess is learn the rules of chess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Learn how to play chess. Yeah. Learn the moves. You don't even have to learn every move, just the moves that will make you win
Just
that
the
particular.
checkmate ones. Yeah.
And never go into a court and start questioning the jurisdiction of the judge or whether he's standing on oath. You have gone in there as a legal fiction, whether you like it or not. Otherwise, you couldn't be summoned as a
Couldn't be
sovereign.
saw there. You wouldn't even be able to get in the room unless you were holding that
So,
office.
exactly. So you're summoned as a spirit. You turn up as a spirit. Act as a spirit. Okay, that's what I say. Because as soon as you start getting angry with the judge or magistrate or whoever, right, you've lost them. They're not on
Lost.
your side. You're there in front of them to get a judgment in your favour. Why would you immediately start slagging them off, pissing them off, or upsetting them, or questioning their authority and jurisdiction? That's not going to do you any favors at all. And trust me, the claimants making the claim against you are rubbing their hands together when you are what is classed as a freeman on the land, right? And I was sent about a year ago, maybe a little over. I was sent a link to a forum to do with these legal professions, right, where they discuss certain cases and whatever. And there's judges, magistrates, solicitors, police officers, all kinds.
I mean, look, a bar forum
Yeah,
similar to
yeah,
that. Yeah.
basically a bathroom. Yeah, exactly. Now, what the subject matter was of a particular thread was freemen on the land,
Right.
right? And it was about these people going into court and claiming they are freemen on the land. They don't owe a penny, etc., etc. Right now, the link I was sent took me directly to a response from a serving district judge who said, um, I haven't had one of these freemen on the land in my court yet, but as soon as I do, they're definitely losing their case, and definitely was written in bold to really emphasize it. Now
Yeah.
that shows that you're not getting a fair trial.
Yeah.
That shows that you're going in there with the wrong attitude. I've
They're
won
going to
cases.
railroad you. Definitely.
Yeah, I've won cases that I fought myself. Um, Simply by if they say all rise, I'll rise. Yeah, if they say sit down, I'll sit down. I'm not going to allow my ego to lose me the case, right? I'm in there as in an acting role, right? Acting as a legal fiction. I'm an
Right.
actor at that point, so my ego is unaffected, right? As with any actor, your ego would be unaffected by the role. You're just playing the role as best you can
Yeah.
in that theatre of which it is, right?
That's actually brilliant what you just said, Davey. But for me, it's literally everything that I've learned has been the other way around to that. In a court setting, yeah. I mean, I'll let you explain it in a minute. But like all the cases I've won, I've won. I've never gone to court. I've done it all through the post. Um, and I've always been of the understanding that, if we go to court, why the hell would we want to represent a legal fiction? Because it's the legal fiction that is the trust account, which contains the money where the judges are settled, the bars settled, the solicitors get paid.
So sewn into the system. We're so
Yeah.
glued to the system. We're now on a Zoom call, me and you,
Mm.
right? That is all paid for by a legal fiction.
Legal fictions, legal, yeah,
Camera
everything is.
you're to belongs to the legal fiction. You know, a living being owns only that which he creates himself,
Yeah.
right? With raw materials. So if you dig up the minerals from the ground and you put it together yourself, then you truly own it as a living being. But we weren't brought up that way. We were all conditioned into this social system, this matrix, and now we're addicted to it, whether we like it or not,
Mm.
right? So the best thing to do, we're all going to be slaves for the rest of our life. The best thing to do is be the freest slave you could possibly be whilst freeing other slaves. Yeah. And
Absolutely.
they're only slaves in the mindset because everything only exists in your reality,
That's a
right?
brilliant point. When you said that, it really hit home with me. 'Cause for the last 7 years, I've been doing psychology with a company in Australia, sorry. And they taught me that we could be in the same room and see what we're seeing with completely different viewpoints,
Exactly.
perspectives, blah, 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 blah.
Exactly.
Because it's coming from us. What we've experienced,
Yeah.
is unique to us.
Percent.
Which is a great point.
100%.
Which is why if you get triggered by the system, you've got work to do.
Yeah.
Because one, it tells me you don't know who you are. You don't know that you're separate to that legal fiction or whatever. And even if you want to go down your route and be the legal fiction, that's a good idea as well. It doesn't matter how you do it because as the legal fiction, you can discharge debts. So say you got a
Yeah.
bailiff at your door, you can
So
discharge debt.
many powers. So
Yeah.
many powers. They're the same powers as the people who write these laws use themselves, right?
Yes.
The same
Yeah.
powers don't teach them to you. They
Yeah.
teach them to their offspring, Eton or
Eton and all the colleges. Yes.
Stern and all that sort of stuff, right? They teach it there, right? But they're teaching us a completely different system, a complete bill of lies. So what you need to do is wake up, right? And you don't do it. I mean, a lot of people sort of equate the Matrix, for example, the film The Matrix, and they say, well, they broke out of the Matrix, but then they spent the rest of their lives then trying to fend off killer robot devices and all kinds of sentience and stuff like that. Instead, you can just go in the matrix and manipulate it to your benefit,
Yeah.
right? Manipulate it using their rules, their regulations, their civil procedure rules. If a court order is alleged to have been issued, and I can tell you, I asked ChatGPT ages ago this question, right, which was how many court orders that are issued have actually been in front of a physical court, and it said between 95 and 99% have not
I'm
been
gonna say, yeah.
a court, right? So pretty much most, if not virtually all of them. You will get some, obviously, that go in front of her, but a court can only deal with about one, two, maybe a maximum on a quick day of 5 or 6 cases, right? And then they've got a whole new set to deal with the next day. That's per courtroom. So they're not great numbers when you consider there's 70 million people in this country. Yeah. If
Exactly.
you just learn how to manipulate, how to make best use of the back doors that are in the system that are used by the very wealthy and powerful, but are not taught to us, right? How to look for those. Don't try and look for a completely different system. That's what they want you to do, because then you will expose yourself as a legal illiterate. And as soon as you do that, they look upon you as you're one of them. You're, with contempt. You're not given equal standing. And you need, in a courtroom, equal standing. They need to like you. They need to be impressed by you. They need you to be able to point out the rules so that they can go, absolutely, you're right. Yeah. And it's a game of tennis. That's probably why it's called a court.
Exactly what I was just going to say. Yeah, exactly what it's called a court. Yeah.
You're hitting the ball over the, they're hitting the ball at you with their claim. You're hitting it back with your defense. They're hitting it back again with evidence. You're hitting it back with further evidence, right? And whoever the ball stays landed in, right, loses the
game.
The game. Right? And the judge is nothing more than the umpire.
Yeah, right? He's the one who oversees it, isn't he?
Yeah.
Adjudicator.
Yeah, it's the captain of the ship. That's where you're standing a dock, a dry dock. And again, all shipping terms, So they've got you trapped in this system rather than trying to sort of break out and go, I'm free and, I own none of this and whatever. Well, where are you going to live? How are you going to buy food? How are you going to survive? I've spent 58 years not living in the woods off of the land and all that sort of stuff. How do I adapt to that system? Why would I want to adapt to that? I quite like using technology. I know, and I will. Things I get a lot of people saying, because I'll use ChatGPT to create templates for people, that kind of thing. I'll put in the information, give it a brief explanation, and it will do it in a format that you can actually submit to a court, like an actual court evidence bundle. You can ask it to create you a court evidence bundle based on these details, blah, 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 right? And my statement being this, and it will put them into the right order and get the appendices sorted and whatever. And that was a tool that was used to try and control us. I say take that tool, don't be scared of it, right? Take that tool, turn it around and point it at them, right? Just like a gun. Let's say guns were never invented and suddenly the tyrant invents a gun. Well, brilliant. Now I've got access to guns, which I can point at you and fire.
Yeah.
See what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So use their weapons, turn them around and use them against them, because now you don't need 5 years or 7 years in a law school to be able to write legally appropriate court bundles. Yeah, you can get it done for you in minutes, seconds even sometimes. So
it's quite funny you say that, Davey, because my son, he's going for a bit of a court case of his own at the moment. Obviously, I can't talk about it, but I did his case for him. I wrote it by hand, and I'm sitting there thinking, now you've told me that, what am I doing? I know ChatGPT exists, but let's look at some of the loopholes we can use to beat them then. So, Davey, on your website, peacekeepers.uk, I believe that's right.
Peaceofficers.uk.
Oh, sorry, I'm thinking of Mark Horn. Peaceofficersuk.uk. Sorry, peaceofficers.uk. And we'll leave the links at the end as well. But you've got all stuff on your website like these. The promissory notes I printed off last night. I don't know if you see that, it's the blur. But yeah, I was just going to ask you really, Davey, on this topic of defending ourselves against the system. The number of ways that I've done it is I've done it through conditional accepting everything, no matter what. No matter what it is, could be £1 million tax bill. Yeah, I'll conditionally accept that. And then I'll say, upon the evidence, you can prove I am this name, or why am I not this name? And I've sent it to them, and I've heard nothing. It's gone quiet. I've had a case dismissed, discharged, letters back not in the public interest. There's also trusts that you can use to sort of hide, not hide, but you know,
Yeah.
hide, your stuff away from the prying entities who want to get their tentacles into it, like
Yeah.
UK government.
Liability partnerships, that kind of thing, where you
Yeah,
can issue bills of exchange.
yeah, that
Uh,
as well. I do that with council tax. Yeah, they don't like it, but I do it. Yeah, yeah. But this
yeah,
promissory note,
I can honestly say I've never paid a penny of council tax in my life, ever. Yeah, and I get the demands constantly, but there's nothing they can do. They can't enforce it at all against me. There's nothing they can do. They,
what do you do? Let's talk about that. How would you help somebody with council tax who doesn't want to pay? What can they
so
do?
it's all about, I mean, we've got template letters and whatever that they can send to their council. Um, you stick to the fact that you need to see, the council need to produce a court order that satisfies the civil procedure rules. Because again, as I was saying, the CPR, civil procedure rules, are the rules of the game of, if you want to take something to court, you have to follow these steps. If you miss a step, you will lose your case, yeah,
Wow.
on a technicality because a procedure wasn't correctly followed. So it's very important that you follow the procedure rules. It sets out what you can, what does constitute. So, for example, CPR 40.2.2 states that a court order has to contain the judge's name, the case number, um, and also be sealed by the court. Okay, sealed by the court means officially stamped or
Um,
sealed by a proper, usually embossed seal.
like the red
Right.
court embossed seal where it's sort of off the paper. Yeah.
So it has to be sealed by the court, not just be printed off from a template from the Civil National Business Centre, or by, in most cases with the council, they do it themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you
And
can,
they just
you can dispute the legitimacy, first of all, of the council tax
liability.
summons,
Oh, summons. Yep, summons.
summons to magistrates court. And it's very crafty what they do. They use a magistrates court because it makes you feel like it's a criminal offence. I can
Official.
tell you, nobody has ever gone to prison for not paying council tax. There was cases many years ago, allegedly, that they claim, where it was reported that, I think she was like, I don't know, a woman in her 70s or 80s or whatever, right at the very early days of the community charge. Uh, she went to court and she ended up being given 28 days. It was reported, and there was a bit of public outcry at the time. It was reported that, old age pension, OAP, goes sent to prison for not paying a council tax. Now,
Yeah.
that was to people think to themselves, well, hang on, if I don't pay my council tax, if they're going to send an old granny to prison,
What are they going to do to me?
what they didn't say, right, was the fact that she'd gone into court and she started getting abusive in the court. And when the order was given against her, which they would just do as a matter of course, she told the judge, the magistrates, they can stick it up their arse, right? So she went to prison for contempt of court,
Yeah.
right? For what she said to the judge. However, how it was reported was to make everyone think that, oh, if you don't pay your council tax, you can go to prison, right? So you
To
have to
plant
be
that seed in the hive mind of the public, isn't it?
exactly, and they done that
Right.
very early on. That's why, it was probably wasn't even a real case,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Probably not.
they had to put it out there. Now, the thing is, as I say, using their system against them, under that system, you've got the Bills of Exchange Act 1882. In
Yep.
part
Know it
four,
well.
yeah, in part four of that act, it sets out the terms of a legitimately issued promissory note.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, and there's three elements that have to be satisfied. That is its creation. Okay, so creating it with all the details upon it, relevant details to the particular outstanding liability. So it should have the amount on, who who is going to be the holder of the note, your details, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the first element. The second element is it must be endorsed, i.e., it must be signed.
Yeah.
Okay. Otherwise,
Can you see that, Davey, on your
it's blurred, but
right?
yeah, I
Yeah.
actually made it. I
You
created
made,
that.
yeah.
So,
Well, no one will know better than you, then, will they? But
so
yeah.
if you go on peaceofficers.uk, you'll be able to download a copy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it has to be created, endorsed, and then served, i.e., delivered, right? So as long as you followed those steps, right, there is nowhere within that legislation that says that it only has value if they accept it as payment for the outstanding debt. Okay,
Doesn't
it
say
doesn't.
that at all.
There's nothing about it at all. What it basically states is that in layman's terms,
Delivery.
is that if you've created it and you put all the right information, it's not got erroneous information on it, you've signed and dated it, right?
Yeah.
And then you've delivered it, it
Mm.
no longer is just a printed piece of paper with some writing on it. It's now got value. Okay.
Becomes currency, don't it? Becomes real
Yeah.
currency. Well, not real currency, but
It's no different to you going to the bank asking for a loan and they give you a promissory note to sign, which sets out the terms of the so-called loan,
loan and the
right?
repayments and stuff. Yeah.
Your signature is what gives it its value. And then
Value.
you date that to the bank, who then lend that back to you. Yeah. So
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
adding it to their bookkeeping, and then they're depositing it in your account. So it's cost them zero, other than the cost of printing a sheet, a couple of sheets of paper and the ink and the type, the hourly rate of the person serving you. Um, but the value they've received from that note, this is how they've tricked us over, so
Crazy,
long.
isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we are the only ones really using their cash system, their monetary system, because the very wealthy, everything to trust, and they're all beneficiaries, so they own nothing at all. They are personally poor, but their estates are very wealthy, of which they benefit from. So,
very clever.
yeah, it's
That's how it should be, though, isn't it? That's how we should be doing it. Well,
we should be taught that at school. Instead, they fill up our heads. They give us lots of homework to do so that we don't have time to think for ourselves. That's to drain your energy, because you only really start getting homework as you get older, right? And you start going into that age of rebellion where hormone changes, and you might start thinking for yourself, right, let's pack them full of stress and homework, and that way that will keep them occupied. Punish them if they don't do it. That will keep them occupied, so they don't think for themselves, they don't work this shit out for themselves, and they abide by this current matrix system. So
it's a very cleverly designed evil manipulation of the mind.
Absolutely evil to the core, but we are trapped in this prison. Okay, it depends on how you perceive it, whether you perceive it as a prison or not. If you believe it's a prison and you're going to live as if it's a prison, you are going to remain a prisoner. Okay,
You'll get that experience because you're the creator. You're creating it.
Exactly. Each one of us is a god. Each one of us is a superhero. Yeah, that's why there's so many superhero films out over the years. It's to make you believe, as the consumer, it's to make you believe that you are the pathetic, weak one that runs through the street screaming as the monster's coming to get you, and only an alien,
Superman can save you.
only an alien, a mutant, or a billionaire can save you. Right? That's the mindset they programmed into you using the media. Right? Now, I quite like a superhero film. I like the Marvel films.
Yeah.
As some light entertainment. But I'm very aware about the fact that that is psychological programming.
What's the message they're giving me in this movie? That's what I do. Yeah.
And because I'm aware of it, it doesn't program me like it will program somebody else who isn't aware of it. Right. So just being aware of these things and going, how can I get around this? Yeah. How can I how can I win that case? How can I do what is available to me that I can that I can issue that legally settles this matter, right?
Right.
Despite their protestations, which I can then argue in court, as long as I don't go into court and go, "Oi, you, Mr. Judge, who do you
Yeah.
think? What jurisdiction are you? Are you under your oath? Where's
Yeah.
your ID?" All of that sort of stuff, right? Because you're getting kicked out of that
You'll get
court.
railroaded straight away. So what
In
you're
there,
trying to say, really, Dave, is you're going to go into the court with the
I'm
court's
going to
own
act the
tools.
role. I'm going to
Yeah.
as a legal fiction. It's an acting job,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So that I still benefit from that legal fiction because it's all I've become accustomed to, as most of us are have too. You know, even people who say, "Oh no, I live completely now as a sovereign being." No, you don't. You still buy food from the shop. That
Yeah.
act
Exactly.
commerce, dead entity thing. Yeah,
But they,
and
they know they're lying to themselves, those people. They know they want to make a difference and their heart's in the right place and they're trying
oh,
to make
yeah,
it.
I've got no doubt
You
about
know what I
that.
mean? But
It's
like
just
then,
I'm of the belief you've got to get information correct, and you've also got to be smart about it too. You know, like I said, don't go into a court and act in the way that your ego wants you to act. It's the same. If you want to think of a comparison to how you would react as the judge, for example, is imagine that person is coming into your house, right, with your rules. Yeah, and you say, "Oh, can you please take your shoes off?" And they go, "Yeah, who do you think you are? What jurisdiction?"
yeah,
You kick them out the bloody door. You
yeah,
wouldn't
you're in
entertain
my house now, so you do what I say, sort of thing.
my house, my rules. Don't
Yeah,
If you don't want to abide by those rules, don't come in my house.
yeah,
Right? The fact that you come in and start saying, "If I want to take a dump on the floor, I will," you know,
yeah.
that's not acceptable. Nobody would find that acceptable. So these courtrooms are the judges' houses or the magistrates' houses, and you need to respect that. You do it as an act. You can keep your fingers crossed if you want, and like to undo it when you magically come out of there. You're not uh what's the word I'm looking for? You're not almost begging them for what you're doing is saying, "No, I'm here as a person, an individual who, as a citizen who is protected by these laws, right?
Yeah.
All this legislation, as we all are, and
That is
as
a
long as
fantastic way of saying it, Davey. I've never heard of it like that before. And how you've just said that is the key.
it is the key, because then
Key. Just what I've been looking for.
their power comes from the money they make and the armies they can then pay for, like police or bailiffs or army, navy, air
Because
force,
they
all of
get the
that.
population to they get the
Starve
population
them of their
to
income.
yeah, that's right. And they pay the population so the population believe they're doing a good job, like bailiffs or whatever. But they're being manipulated to basically pull off a gigantic wealth transfer for the so-called elite. Because that's
Yeah,
all this is a wealth transfer. And you've just got to understand that. I mean, that's all right, really. I mean, they can have my house, no problem at all. Because at the end of the day, one, I don't own it. Two, even if I did thought I own it, I wouldn't own it anyway because you'd only own the piece of paper between the bricks and the foundations, not the
that's
actual
it.
house itself.
Yeah.
So none of us own anything. I think we've just got to get our mental head right, as you said. We've got to get the mindset correct from the start, and we can achieve anything we want as long as we've got the mindset. We use the system against the system. And that's our remedy. That's one of our remedies. There is another remedy, but it doesn't matter how you get remedy, as long as you get remedy, right? As long as you know how to get remedy and why you're getting it.
As
But I
long as
think,
it's the rules of their game that they
yeah,
are challenging you to, right? Then all you need to do is learn those rules and learn those remedies, learn those back doors, those loopholes, the interpretations and such like of how to represent yourself. And also, most importantly of all, stop being scared of going to court. I help so many people, right? I get about anywhere roughly about 20, could be up to 30, sometimes a bit more per day, 7 days a week. Inquiries on Telegram, on WhatsApp, on Messenger, on email. People say, "Davey, I've got this. What do I do? What do I do?" Now, quite often I'll advise them, well, you can apply to go to court for that. Oh, I don't want to go to court. I'm a bit too nervous to go to court. Court is where you will get your remedies. It's just a chess match. You're
Yeah.
attending a chess match and and playing a game of chess, yeah, and or Monopoly, whichever way you want to look at it. You're playing a game by their rules and insisting that they abide by those rules. If
Yeah.
you catch them cheating, you can highlight it to the umpire, i.e., the judge or magistrate, right? And they have to consider that. If it gets heard, it has to be considered at least. It can be rejected by the judge, but it has to be at least considered. That which is not heard is not considered. So people before who have been petitioned for bankruptcy for non-payment of council tax, because the amount now has gone over £5,000, which entitles them to petition for bankruptcy because they've got a house listed on land registry. So we want to try and bankrupt them and get the money from that, proceeds from that.
So
Right?
can't they be bankrupted? If you don't own the property, can you not be bankrupted then?
It's a foolish thing for a creditor or a claimant to do, because if you've got nothing to lose, because a bankruptcy only lasts for 12 months. After that, you're no longer bankrupt, right? And after that, all your debts now are clear,
But then
right?
you can't get a bank account or something for 6 years. Is that right? After that,
You can't, but then I think it's with bankruptcy, it's 5 years, I think. It might be six, but um, you don't necessarily need a bank account. You could get a prepaid debit card, for example, and top that up and have wages paid onto that and use that instead as a kind of temporary bank account.
so it's good news for people who have not got mortgages that they can challenge the council tax after all, because they probably not.
I would say challenge the council tax.
Anyway,
Challenge them on the basis there's no physical order that has been sealed by a court, and because it can't be produced, an office copy, either a true copy or a certified office copy of a liability order, they can't prove that it actually exists.
wow, yeah. Because I've done all my council tax reclaim, and I've started that process, and that's exactly my standpoint on it. At the end of the day, but these guys know they're committing fraud. The council's been committing fraud since 1973. And
The
it's
whole system's based on fraud.
the whole thing.
So you need to know how to manipulate that to your benefit, to give you the maximum amount of freedom that you actually desire, because you will get that freedom. It's all in the mindset. If you allow them to scare you and to intimidate you and to give you anxiety, right? That's why I live such a free lifestyle and free of any stress.
Great.
When it comes to debt, because of my mindset and how I now think of it compared to how I would have thought of it 30, 40 years ago, So it's all in the mind. It's all in the mind. Take the fear out, because that is as you are a superhero, right? You're capable of so much. That is your kryptonite. Yeah, fear and anxiety is your kryptonite. So take away the fear of a court. That's where you're going to ask to sort this out for me, will you? Because they haven't done this right, or I don't owe that because of this, and they can't prove that, and so on and so forth. And you think, well, I don't know how to do all that. I'm not a legal expert. No, but they created ChatGPT and other AI software that now you can use as a weapon against them, a major weapon. Create documentation for you, save yourself thousands on solicitors
fees and stuff like that. So just the last question I was going to ask you, Davey, is about trust, because trusts are important as well. Now, a trust, I believe, you can make your own private irrevocable trust just with a piece of paper, right? Yeah. You don't need any solicitor, you don't need any barrister, you don't need any money. You can just make it yourself right now.
You do have to register it with HMRC, otherwise you'll run into difficulties. I know some people would say, especially people sort of who are, have learned so much about common law and natural law that they have rejected the legal system as much as they can, which I think, as I say, is foolish to do unless you can live without the house and without the car and, in the middle of the woods.
Struggle with that.
Exactly. We'd all struggle with that. So Therefore, protect that legal fiction at all costs. Use the tools that are available to you. Use the advice that is available to you. Use, if you want to write a letter in response, cease and desist notice to the council or an enforcement agent, go on ChatGPT and say, create me a cease and desist notice to whatever council. Tell them that they must produce the liability or a physical copy of the liability order, include all relevant legislation, case law, and civil procedure rules, right? And it will put it all in for you. That will save you years of
Hours. Yeah. Well, yeah, years of research.
valuable tool. Don't be scared of using ChatGPT. It's a weapon they created to use against you. Take hold of it, turn it around, point it at them, and fire. That's
That's
all you
it.
have.
And this is the beautiful thing, David, because they've inverted the system. The remedy is to
Yeah.
invert back.
It's the first law of physics, mate. Every action has an equal and
Well, an
opposite.
opposite reaction.
Whatever they
Yeah,
create, use against us can be used against them.
yeah,
You know.
absolutely spot on, David. David, we've been on for what? An hour and a half now, says here. So I think that's more than enough of my time you've heard me going on, and you've probably got things to do as well. But the good news is, Davey, I'm going to send people to your website to get these promissory notes, all the templates, and all the letters, and all the other excellent work you guys do. So what I'll do actually, I'll just verify the links. Is it peaceofficersuk.com?
No, peaceofficers.uk.
What's UK? Right, what I'm
Yeah.
going to do then, Dave, in the description, we'll put all the links in there. And obviously, if anybody wants to come from this video to your site, you can onboard them, you can help them and assist them. We're doing this for each other at the end of the day, David, because I'm you and me, we're both the same. Without each other, we're never going to sort of change the world for the better, which is what we're here to do, right?
We have a common enemy. Regardless of what system you're using, we have a common enemy, and it's the capstone at the top of that pyramid. So as long as we're all, breaking up that foundational level at the bottom, right? So the money can't be filtered to the top. It can't then buy power. Therefore, we crash that system even sooner than it would naturally run its term.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Yeah, it sounds like a plan, David. And it sounds like a plan we all need to sort of wake up and start doing. And obviously, if people go to your site, you're going to give them the tools to be able to do that. So, David, it was an amazing conversation, mate. I watched a few of your videos, and I'm very highly impressed with what I've
Thank
seen
you.
so far. Really am. So, all the best, mate. Thank you for coming on the
Thank you.
on the show, and maybe in the future we'll do it again. All right,
Happy
mate.
to. Happy to. Anytime.
Perfect, mate. Thanks for your time, David.
Pleasure, my friend.
Cheers, mate.